Hey guys, here's a video of Cliffe Knechtle, a famous Christian, discussing the evidence of Jesus Christ of Logan Paul, a famous YouTuber, on his popular podcast named Impulsive. Enjoy.
So long my hair. And actually the first thing you said to me, the first response to his question was, you said, I don't know. And I think a lot of hard questions. I think there's a lot of maturity and nobility in a human being able to say, you know what? I don't know.
But that's a strange thing about this scenario, and I've heard you speak about this in the past. No one is ever going to be able to bring to you this bulletproof proof that God exists or that Jesus exists, right?
Which, to answer your question on when I say when convince me to become Christian, is it synonymous with like saying convince me to become a Republican? I guess what I am looking for and what I have always struggled with is like the proof per se. Like I haven't really had like a come to Jesus moment that I know some people have had. I haven't had and have abided by the guidance of the Bible to lead me to like a happy, successful place in my life. I just try to be a good person. I try to work hard and I try to love the people around me as much as I can. And by the way, I fuck up a lot, but I guess like I started by saying I'm just like unwilling to subscribe to a religion, because then I guess this leads into this conversation. Why Christianity? There's so many denominations out there, and to be able to like put your foot down on one, especially when they all have such positive teachings for the most part, it's just so hard for me. I just don't know if I'm willing to make that assertion just yet. So why Christianity is the question.
All right. First of all, you're right. I can't prove God. But Logan, I think you've got God bearing down hard on you through your mom. I think it's real clear that your mom loves you.
Is that true, Ma? She's holding the cross. Can you at least get a thumbs up or something?
She just holds up
the cross.
She's like, can't discuss the love of Logan.
But here's a cross.
I do love Jesus.
I don't think that your mom's love for you is simply a chemical reaction. I think your mom has made a decision over your entire life to care for you, to provide for you, to protect you, to sacrifice for you. That is far beyond an animal instinct. That is a free decision your precious mother has made to really love you, to really care for you. Love, the experience of love, points us to reality, including some type of God. Okay, then the next question is, but who is this God? And that's where Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Confucius, Buddhists, all the avatars of Hinduism come in, all claiming to be revealing God accurately. But the historical evidence is Jesus lived a sinless life. He never sinned once. In John chapter 8, he could look into the faces of his enemies and say, which one of you can prove me guilty of sin? And his enemies were silent. Secondly, he taught amazing ethical teachings that I think all of us respect highly. The Sermon on the Mount is obviously ethical genius. All right, profound ethical genius. The Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7. So his lifestyle, his ethical teachings demand respect. Thirdly, you watch him die. At the moment of his most excruciating pain and agony, nailed to a wooden crossbeam, instead of cursing his enemies the way I would have, he prays, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, my respect for him skyrockets. But fourthly, and most importantly, 3 days after he dies, he physically, bodily rises from the dead, and over a period of 40 days, he appears to over 500 people who see him, different times, different places, risen from the dead, Paul records in 1 Corinthians 15.
I have a question. How do you know that?
You know that in the same way that you know that George Washington was the first president of the United States, that you know that Adolf Hitler really committed the atrocities he did. It's called historical knowledge.
But those recent events those events you just cited happened much more recently.
Yes.
And are much more well documented.
Yes.
Than potentially 2,000 years of lost history.
Bingo, correct. But the great news is, in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we have a very, very reliable historical record based on over 5,800 Greek manuscripts, 10,000 manuscripts in the Latin Vulgate, and about 9,800 in Ethiopic, Coptic, Armenian, Syriac, Gothic, and Slavic.
Basically, like they were almost approved and given credibility to in the short term thereafter. And that became made it even that added more extensive proof to the story back then.
Essentially, they were like corroborated.
Yeah, that's
evidence.
That's kind of what I want to ask a quick question about that. And you brought up George Washington and the atrocities of World War II. We live in a place, a time and place right now, specifically in this moment, where the things that happened yesterday aren't even believed to necessarily be true. They're questioned. We live in a very strange place where there's been this infection of question everything to no end. And maybe it's an infection and maybe you'll say otherwise. Like I've seen you even do this exercise before, like on George Janko's show. Are we even sitting here right now? You know, like, and you didn't ask it in saying like, we're not, but like, how far can this go? Right.
You bet.
And so do you feel like that modern day questioning that, to be honest with you, is somewhat of it seems like an ego boost almost for the person questioning whatever they're questioning. Like, look, I can question this. I must be so woke and amazing, right? And such a free thinker. Exactly. Do you think that's increasing the scrutiny on religious beliefs?
Yeah, we just had this big debate at Mississippi State in a lecture hall that went kind of crazy in there. And this guy stands up and tries to poke fun at Christianity, saying, you guys live in a culture of certainty. We live in a culture of free thinking and uncertainty. And you guys are bastardizing all different forms of knowledge by claiming this type of certainty. But what he doesn't get is Christianity is all about doubt. Like, if any Christian comes up to you and says, you got to have certainty or you're not going to heaven, you're going to burn in the lake of fire. That's just a total joke. Like the man after God's own heart, David, was questioning God all the time. Job, when he was going through suffering, questioning God all the time. Oh, doubting Thomas. Jesus said, don't doubt, obviously, because doubting Thomas was scolded. No, doubting Thomas had all the disciples who claimed eyewitness testimony to the resurrection coming to him, telling him exactly what happened. Finally, Jesus actually gives him the physical proof, says, touch the actual nail prints in my hands, thrust your hand into the spear wound in my side, then stop doubting and believe. So eventually he calls him out of his doubt. But to your good point, I've doubted more than my brothers all life long. And my 3-year-old daughter the other day was like, I don't believe in God. Like, I can't see, touch, taste. So I'm like, you're 3. What is going on? It's so in the genes. I just hate it.
You just took a bite of Play-Doh.
Exactly. I can't even answer this. And so I love that about the Christian faith, unlike other faiths, which is, yeah.
So, but it sounds like this person that you were going back and forth with is talking about your certainty in the belief of Jesus, that he existed. That's what it sounds like. And I guess that's kind of was my question as well. Like how do you know? Is because the preservation of history is, freaking difficult. That's extremely difficult, by the way. History is often written by the victors, right? And I don't know who the victor is in this case, but like we have lost thousands of years of history to, I don't know, destruction, fire, torment, collapse, war, rage, rain. The further back we go, it is harder for me to put my seal of belief on something if I don't have a certain amount of evidence. Like I'm one of those, and I'm not like, I'm just doubting. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just asking questions. And eyewitness testimony seems to be like the strongest actual receipt of these events that took place in years 0, by the way, right? I want to talk about that, pin that question. But yeah, you have a tremendous amount of faith in eyewitness testimony and the preservation of the records that contributed towards this story of Jesus Christ. Correct.
As well as Muhammad. If you tell me Muhammad never existed, I'm going to look you in the face and say, I'm sorry. The historical evidence is Muhammad was born about 570 AD and died about 632 AD.
What Muhammad claimed to be a messenger of God?
Prophet of God.
Prophet of God. Do you not believe in that God? Allah, I'd assume?
When you read the Quran, there are good reasons to question the total reliability of Muhammad. So therefore, I don't trust him too much. I have great respect for Muhammad in the way he taught give alms to the poor. I think that's tremendous. Muhammad had more respect for Jesus than the typical American does. Muhammad believed that Jesus was born of a virgin, that he ascended to heaven, he lived a sinless life, he's coming back a second time. Wow. But Muhammad did not subscribe to the deity of Christ, that Christ is actually God in human form.
So I asked someone who was pretty religious, who's close to me. I asked this person. I said, "So what about people who don't believe in Jesus, but are still extremely religious, and they subscribe to Allah or the Buddhist or whatever the deity is that they worship and believe in?" And even just based on what you guys have told me today, if that person doesn't believe in Jesus Christ, I said to this person, are they going to hell? Are they doomed for the rest of eternity?
The only reason people go to hell is because they choose to live their life separate from God. And
Jesus? Sorry.
Yep.
In this
From
context,
Jesus,
can
from
you-
God. Yep. Correct. So if I choose to reject Christ and live my life separate from him, I'm choosing to live my life separate from God. And I will, based on my decision, will spend eternity separate from him.
So you believe that anyone who doesn't accept Jesus Christ is going to hell?
Anybody who hears about Christ and has the opportunity to investigate Christ by reading the Gospels and chooses to reject Christ, Jesus clearly said, "For God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already because he's not believed in the name of God's one and only Son." That's what Jesus said.
It just isolates such a large portion of the population.
Good point. Jesus doesn't give his followers an option when it comes to loving people. If I'm a follower of Christ, I don't have an option to hate. I have to love. I have to accept. I have to be tolerant. In fact, if I'm going to follow a man who, as he's bleeding and dying on a cross, prays for his enemies, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," that's the essence of tolerance. So intolerance, bigotry, hatred is not an option for a genuine follower of Christ.
But isn't intolerance sort of rooted in Christianity a bit?
Okay, great question. This is a matter of truth. If I say to you, every religion leads to God, is that a truth claim?
No.
I would argue yes. What I'm saying is every religion leads to God, which means I contradict the Muslims, I contradict the Christians, I contradict the Jews. This is a truth claim.
Okay.
I, as a white Western male, am saying every religion leads to God. That's a truth claim. If I say to you, half the religions lead to God, is that a truth claim? Sure it is. I'm saying half are right, half are wrong. That's a truth claim. When Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father except through me," is that a truth claim? Yeah, it sure is. You see, Logan, we all make truth claims. Everybody does. If you're against racism, you're making a truth claim. If you're against sexism, you're making a truth claim. If you're for equal housing opportunity, you're making a truth claim. You better not be prejudiced against someone because of their ethnic heritage when you rent out your apartment. So everybody makes truth claims.